Good afternoon, Year 12 students. Me, Christopher Bugoro, who will be taking you this session. And before we continue on our new topic, let us try and recap on what we have talked about in our previous lesson. And that is on the topic of soil conserve methods. And in that topic, we look mainly on areas or ways or methods that we can use to keep the soil continue producing high production, or ways in which we will be still allowing soil to become fertile. That is what we have talked about in our previous lesson. And so for today, or for this afternoon, we will be looking at the first method of soil conservation, and that is on mulching. Mulching is one of the soil conservation methods, and the main learning outcome will be, I'm expecting you students, after this session or lesson, you should be able to describe the benefits of mulching. Well, before we look at the concept of mulching, let's try and answer these two questions. What is mulch, or what are mulches? And the second one is, what is mulching? Well, mulches are any form of dead plant and animal materials, or mulches comes from the remains of both plant and animals. And mulching is a process of covering the soil using dead plant and animal materials, or covering the soil using mulches. Let's try and look at this picture or diagram that try to show us the two words that we just defined. We see mulch, and we also see the soil already do, or the process of mulching is already applied. So there is a dead grasses, or there are dead grasses lying around the capsicum plants. So the process of mulching using dead dried grasses, that is on the picture. So an example of mulch and the process of mulching is demonstrated on that picture. Example of mulches. What are the materials that we can use for as a form of mulch? Dead grasses, dead leaves, animal remains like chicken manure, piggery wastes from pigs, cattle manure, sawdust and wood savings that comes from a milling factory of timbers, copra sacks, especially the old copra sacks that we do not need them anymore. We can also use those copra sacks or bags as a form of mulch. Now let's look at the activity or student activity. You are required to try and discuss those two questions. One, why do we use dead materials? And two, what are the benefits of mulching, or what are the advantages or the goodness that we can get out from mulching? I will leave it for a few minutes for you to try and discuss and come up with some possible answers. Well, students, for question number 1, there are reasons of using dead materials for mulching. We have purposes why we have to use dead materials for mulching. 1, easy to rot and decompose. If we use dead materials, it will easily get rot or decay and decompose. The other thing, quick to release nutrients. Because we are using dead materials, it is already in the form of organic matter. And once it reaches the organic matter stage, the next stage will be humus. And once it reaches the humus stage, then the release of nutrients will occur. And that will support the soil and also the plants. We are using dead materials, and the chances of those materials to grow again will not happen. So we do not allow those materials to grow again. That is why we are using dead materials, because they will become weeds. Dead materials are always available. Taking for an example, dead grasses, dead leaves can also found everywhere. Everybody can access them everywhere. We can find them along the road, around our houses, or around a garden. No cost are involved. They are all free of charge. Friendly to the environment, because we are using materials that come from plants and animals, remains. Once they are broken down or decay or decompose, they produce conducive environment for microorganisms to live, and they will not produce any toxic or poisonous substances because they do not contain chemicals on them. Question number 2, the benefits of mulching. What are the benefits or advantages of mulching? Or what are the goodness that we can get out from the process of mulching? Number 1, it keeps the soil cool. Secondly, it maintains soil moisture. It's very important that we really need to keep the moisture level of the soil at the optimum level, especially when we reach dry season. It reduces evaporation losses, slow down with growth. If we apply mulches or mulching, we disallow or suppress weeds to grow. It increases organic matter content. Once those dead materials they decay or they decompose or they get rot, they will go and become an organic matter. So the organic matter content in the soil will be high. And once those organic matter in the soil becomes high or increased, it improves texture and structure of the soil. It creates air spaces. It allows water movement, like drainage, the retention of water. The strength of the soil will be also improved. It also increases microbial activities, the activities of earthworms, centipede, millipedes, ants, fungi, bacteria, and all those animals and plants that lives in the soil will be increased. And once those microbial activities are improved or increased in the soil, then they will release plant nutrients, and the nutrient status of the soil will become high. Therefore the soil will become fertile, and the soil will also become productive. So those are the benefits or the advantages of mulching as one of the conservation methods of soil. Now, your homework, I'd like you to try and demonstrate proper ways of applying mulches on crops and plants. So I'd like you to try and demonstrate or practice applying mulching or mulches on any of the crop or plants around your house or your homes or even your gardens. And before we call it a day, let's try and sum up our lesson by looking at the main content of this lesson, and that is, we have talked about the definition of mulch and mulching. We also talk about the materials that we can use for mulching, and finally we also look at the benefit or the advantages of mulching as one of the soil conserve methods. I hope our lesson for today is taken. So thank you too much everyone, and duki mi fala o heri mi fala moi non lesson web I'm come after. Thank you too much.